You think of someone you haven't thought of in years, and they call. You need a specific piece of information, and it appears in a conversation you weren't supposed to have with a person you almost didn't meet. You're standing at a crossroads in your life, and something arrives. A word, an encounter, an image that points so precisely at your situation. It could not have been random. And yet, every rational framework you have been given says it was. Today, I want to offer you a different explanation, not a mystical one, an ancient one. One that is, I believe, more structurally precise than anything modern psychology has produced on this subject. By the end of this video, you will have a framework, a very precise framework for understanding what synchronicity actually is, where it comes from, and this is the part that changes things, what your relationship to it tells you about who you actually are and how synchronicity works for you. The last part is what nobody tells you, and it is the most important. Stay with me, because the explanation I'm going to give you comes from one of the oldest knowledge systems ever recorded by human beings. It predates Jung by minimum 3,000 years. It predates the entire field of psychology. And when I first encountered it, I understood immediately why nothing else had ever fully explained what I had experienced. This is the Kemetic tradition, the knowledge of ancient Egypt, and it has a great deal to say about this synchronicity. Here is where we actually are. When something like this happens to you, something that feels impossibly well timed, impossibly specific, impossibly relevant, you are offered two explanations. The first one says it is coincidence. The brain is a pattern recognition machine. It selects for meaningful arrangements from a sea of random noise. What feels like significance is prophania, the human tendency to impose meaning on events that actually have none. The second explanation says the universe is sending you a sign. You asked and it answered. Trust the flow, trust the energy. And neither of these two explanations actually satisfy a serious mind. The first one leaves you feeling that your most luminous experiences are neurological errors. The second one has no structure, no discernment, no way of distinguishing general signal from wishful thinking. And the internal problem is this. if you keep trusting these moments, if you keep acting on them, and you cannot explain why, you begin to wonder if you are naive, if you're the person who sees meaning because they need to see meaning. I know that doubt. And I want to tell you what the Kemetic tradition says about both the experience and the doubt. There was a period in my life when these moments were happening with such frequency that I could not account for them within any framework I had. Not spirituality, not psychology, not the working models of consciousness I had studied to that point. I was not looking for magic. I was looking for precision. I needed a system that could hold what I was experiencing without collapsing it into either randomness or indiscriminating mysticism. I found it in the Kemetic tradition, especially in the concept of Maat. Maat is the oldest recorded word for the ordering principle of reality. Just think about how beautiful is that. Not a deity in the way we understand deity or goddess, and not a set of moral rules. Maat is the name the ancient Egyptians gave to the living intelligence that organizes reality towards coherence. When I read that, something calmed and settled in me, because it meant that what I had been experiencing was not the exception to how reality works. It was reality working as it actually does. When you can see it, it is so clear. And here is what the Kemetic tradition teaches. Reality is not a neutral container in which random events occur. Reality is Maat, a living field of coherence that is continuously in the process of ordering itself. The Kemetic priests described this with a precision that I just find remarkable. They said that Maat operates at every scale simultaneously in the movement of the stars, in the patterns of seasons, in the human body, in the quality of every single day. And most importantly, for what we are talking about, in the timing of encounters, the arrival of information, the convergence of events that carry what they called Heka. Heka is the Kemetic word for the living charge that certain moments carry. The charge that makes you stop, that makes the moment feel different, more present than other moments. It's just like you feel you're alive. And the tradition was unambiguous about this. Heka is not projected by the observer. It is a real quality of the event. The observer perceives it. But it was there before the observer arrived. Now, here is where it gets precise. And this is the part that changes the question entirely. The Kemetic tradition makes 3 claims about synchronicity. I'm going to give you all 3 because together they form a complete framework. Synchronicity is math becoming visible. The ordering principle of reality is operating continuously at a level below the ordinary awareness. Most of the time we do not perceive it, not because it is absent, because we are moving too fast, because we are in a mental noise that the Kemetic tradition called isfet, the opposite of math. Isfet is disorder, it's fragmentation, it is the scattered nervous mind. But when the mind quiets through intention, through practice, through the kind of clarity that sometimes arrives in grief or in crisis or in genuine stillness, math becomes perceptible. So you see, the ordering principle was always there. What changed was your capacity to see it. And this is why synchronicity increases during periods of inner clarity and why it seems to disappear during periods of high mental noise. The tradition is not saying reality changed. It is saying your perception of reality changed. This is not a small distinction. It is everything when you think about it. But there is a second claim, and this one goes even further. Your alignment with math changes what arrives. The Kemetic tradition does not describe synchronicity as something that happens to you. It describes it as something you participate in. Mat Keru, one of the most significant phrases in the entire tradition. It means the voice that is true, the voice in alignment with Mat. The traditions say that a person who speaks Mat Keru, a person whose inner state is aligned with the ordering principle, does not merely perceive coherent patterns in reality. They attract them, not through magical intention, not through manifestation in the modern sense, through the simple physics of coherence. A coherent field draws coherent responses, the way a tuning fork causes nearby strings to vibrate at the same frequency. This is why the same event, the same chance meeting, the same piece of information arriving unexpectedly is deeply meaningful to one person and passes unnoticed by another. They are not in the same field. They are not in the same conversation with reality. You are not a passive recipient of random events. You are a participant in a living, ordered universe. And the degree of your participation is a function of your alignment. Which brings us to point 3. Discernment. How to know the difference. The Kemetic tradition was not naive about this. It was not a tradition of undiscriminating trust. It was a tradition of precision. The priests of Maat were not telling people to follow every sign, to treat every coincidence as divine instruction, to abandon discernment in favor of a flow. They were teaching something more demanding. They distinguished between two states: Maat, coherence, alignment, the ordered perception, and Isfet, its opposite, the fragmented mind, the mind operating from fear or desire or confusion. And here is the crucial point. The fragmented mind also produces experiences of apparent meaning. The mind that desperately wants to see something, to see a sign, will find signs everywhere. The mind that needs confirmation will always find confirmation. The Kemetic tests for genuine Maat experiences was not the feeling of significance, it was the quality of the inner state from which the perception arose. Maat perception arises from stillness, from what the tradition called a clean heart, Ip, the heart that has no unsolved weight. Isfet perception arises from wanting, from seeking confirmation, from the mind that has already decided and is looking for evidence. The question is not, was that a sign? The question is, what was the quality of my inner state when I noticed it? Was I still or was I searching? That question, asked honestly, is the most reliable discernment tool I have found in 20 years of working with this. So let me bring this together for you. Synchronicity in the Kemetic understanding is not coincidence. It is Maat, the ordering principle of reality, becoming visible to a perception that is clear enough to receive it. Your alignment with that ordering principle changes what arrives in your experience. And the way to tell the difference between genuine perception and the mind's desire for confirmation is the quality of stillness. But here is the part I haven't told you yet, the part about what this means for who you are. Stay with me, because this is why any of it matters. The Kemetic tradition had a word for the person who lives in conscious relationship with Maat. Not someone who has spiritual experiences, not someone who follows a sign, a person who has done the inner work to bring their own field in coherence, and who, from that coherence, participates consciously in the ordering of reality. That participation was not considered extraordinary. It was considered the proper mode of being human. The Kemetic worldview held that human beings are not spectators in reality. They are not passengers. They are participants in the ongoing ordering of something larger than themselves. Mart was not maintained by the gods alone. It was maintained by human beings living in alignment with it, deciding in alignment with it, speaking in alignment with it. Every moment of genuine coherence in a human life is a contribution to the coherence of reality itself. Every moment of isfet, of inner fragmentation, of decisions made from fear, of perception clouded by wanting, is a withdrawal from that participation. When you trust the synchronicity that arose from stillness, you are not being naive. You are participating in what you were designed to participate in. When you dismiss every significant moment as coincidence, you're not being rational. You are dislining an invitation that reality is continuously expanding. The Kemetic tradition understood something that we are only beginning to recover. That the universe is not indifferent, that it is not random, that it is ordered, and that you are part of that ordering. Not because you're special, because you're human. And that is what human beings are for. I have spent 20 years inside knowledge systems that take this seriously, not as a belief, as working frameworks. The Kemetic tradition is one of the three that I work with in my teachings, because each of them describes the same living intelligence from a different angle. Together they form something complete. If what I have shared today resonates with you, if I give language to something you have been experiencing without a framework, then there is more. Next week, I will talk in the video about something that connects directly to what we covered today. If reality is ordered, if Mart is continuously organizing experiences towards coherence, then there is a question that follows immediately. Why are you here? Not in a philosophical sense, in a specific sense. Why this life? Why this body? Why these particular circumstances in this particular moment in history? The Kemetic tradition has a precise answer, and it's not karma, not a soul contract, something far more specific and far more useful. It's something most people never get told, and it is the answer is already transmitting right now through signals that have been running through your life for years. In the next video, I will show you what they are. And if you're ready to go deeper now, there is a link in the description. And it's the beginning of the work. I will see you next week. My name is Nikki Sabeti. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.